No one has a monopoly on the truth. Our version of our own truths are based on our own lived experiences. In this space, we welcome different perspectives to learn, unlearn, and enlighten. Welcome to The Lantern.
Turning a lemon into lemonade. They say that when life gives you lemons, you should make lemonade. Now, I have received and said these words many times, often without real thought as to what exactly these words truly mean. In this episode, I will be discussing what these words mean to me. When life gives us lemons, our first instinct is to say, well, thanks, life, but I never really asked for these lemons. I don't really like lemons. We often adopt a victim mindset. Why me? Why do I have these lemons? And is my neighbor getting lemons too? We reconcile ourselves. Okay, fine, life, here we are. So what exactly is the recipe for lemonade? Preparing this episode, I actually had to research what ingredients are required to make lemonade. My research outcomes suggest the basic ingredients required are lemon, water, and sugar. Interestingly enough, there are different recipes for lemonade, but that is a thought that I will delve into a little later in this episode. How one goes about making lemonade is a purely subjective process, dependent on one's palate and taste preferences. Well, there we go. Hey life, so who is going to make this lemonade? Oh, still me? Okay. I wonder if during the process of making lemonade, we put all our attention and focus towards perfecting what we believe to be the best recipe, that we forget about the lemons in the first place. If we think about the duality of lemons, we realize that on their own, lemons are an acquired taste. However, combined with other ingredients, lemons make a delightful and refreshing beverage. I'm sure that at this point in the episode, you have figured out that lemons are a metaphor for the obstacles which we will face in life. The more we tend to focus on the obstacle, the bigger we perceive that obstacle to be. The bigger that we perceive that obstacle to be, that affects our belief as to whether we can actually overcome that obstacle. I will discuss mindset in another podcast episode, as that is an intricate concept that deserves a whole episode on its own. When we speak about mindfulness, we speak about being present in the moment. The process of turning lemons into lemonade demands presence. The question and the challenge is, how do we become present? Sometimes presence looks like focusing on everyday tasks. Now, mindfulness doesn't need to be overcomplicated. It just needs to be anything which forces you to ignore all distractions and focus solely on what you are doing. Of course, there are practices which are more beneficial for your overall well-being, such as mindful breathing. However, that doesn't take away from any other mindfulness practices, such as drinking a glass of water while trying to process a heightened emotion. What's intriguing to me is that life is akin to the process of making lemonade. Obstacles are inevitable. We decide whether we want to sit and focus on the obstacle or find a way around that obstacle. Much of what is required when it comes to overcoming obstacles stems from our perception of our ability to overcome that obstacle and us attempting to overcome that obstacle. How we maneuver that obstacle determines whether we will get to drink that delightful beverage or whether we will be stuck with those lemons. Focusing on the lemon making process is metaphoric to so many alchemic processes, transforming a bad situation into a good one, navigating intentional and emergent strategies, turning our pain into purpose and making it a creative offering. To me, life seems to be a series of episodes demanding us to make lemonade. The moment you started the lemonade making process, you already committed to overcoming the obstacle. And that is something that many of us do not realize. You eliminated overthinking and action paralysis. You basically tricked yourself into not being attached to a particular outcome, but just taking action. Mindfulness practices interrupt the overthinking process, particularly when it comes to overthinking obstacles. I have been in so many situations where 24 hours made all the difference, altering the trajectory of my career and life entirely. How I spent that time thinking about my next move wasn't actually about thinking about my next move. I focused on the lemonade making process. And what that looks like to me is spending time in meditation, quietening the mind, and silencing the ego. Circling back to different recipes for lemonade, lemon, water, and sugar are the original recipes required to make lemonade. However, over time, many other ingredients have been added to vary this original recipe, for example, mint. Now, the lemonade recipe, may have changed. However, the process of making lemonade has not changed. One variable that we can adjust when making lemonade is the sugar content. And what we perceive to be an appropriate amount of sugar in our lemonade is determined on our palate and how much we may or may not like sugar. Ours is not to worry about who will like our lemonade or who will come to our lemonade stand. All you need to focus on is intuitively making the best lemonade recipe to your belief and believing that somebody out there will love your lemonade just as it is. I have been thrown many lemons, I'm sure we all have. I focused on the next hour, the next day, the next month, and eventually made it into the next year. And if I didn't do that, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast today. I hope you understand why we offer these words of comfort during challenging times. These words are there to help us shift our perspective from why is this happening to me to what is this trying to teach me. These words are forcing us to look beyond our circumstances and solely focus on the process of making lemonade and what that process has to teach us. In my experience, I have found the lemonade making process invaluable because that is where all the lessons lie. And each time life demands us to make lemonade, there is a different lesson to be learned each and every time, for as long as we are open and willing to allow life to teach us these lessons. So, the next time that life throws you lemons, get up and make yourself some lemonade. I encourage you all to find whatever works for you as your lemonade making process. Choose something that will help get you from point A to point B, remembering that you have already overcome the obstacle because you have committed to move from point A. Do not focus on point B, focus on the journey in between. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you on the next one. Namaste.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Seize the light within yourself. With love, the lantern.